Well, it's still something of a mystery to me, particularly after the success she's had in America, why it is we haven't been seeing Linda Ronstadt's name in the British Top 20. Her last two releases particularly have been excellent, and when Mike Appleton and myself were in Los Angeles in March this year, Linda and her producer Peter Asher were just 3 tracks into her new LP. In fact, Judy Sill was there too, helping out on Linda's version of Jesus Was a Crossmaker. Anyway, we recorded this conversation with the lovely Linda in the office right next door to the studio. Linda, can we trace things back, first of all, to just the end of your university days? Because you were in university in Arizona.
Very briefly.
Very briefly. And then from there you moved to California.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you go about getting into things when you came to LA?
Oh, it's so weird. You know, it's just luck. I mean, I had no idea what I was doing. We came over here and we played some folk music club in Hermosa Beach, which is now mercifully a parking lot. And it, you know, it was such a dive. I didn't know. I mean, it was the biggest thing I'd ever seen. It was certainly a lot more hot stuff than anything I'd seen in Tucson, you know. And we played some hoot there, and everyone went nuts. And I thought, oh, I'm great. You know, this is going to be easy. They like it. You know, I didn't realize it was just sort of a bunch of stoned people trying to make a transition from beatnik to hippie, you know. And so I came over, and I lived with a bunch of people that I knew from Tucson on the beach, and we just started hanging around the Troubadour. You know, the Troubadour is really responsible for the entire music scene over here. You know, Doug Weston is really, you know, has kept a quality club with a good sound system, place where performers can be very comfortable and do their best, and other people can see, you know, other musicians can see them, and so it gives the chance for a lot of influences to cross over and intertwine, you know. And I mean, everything I got really was virtually through either performing there on stage or in the bar, you know, as it were.
Was this the time of the Stone Ponies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that was you yourself and
Kenny Edwards, who's in the band now.
Right.
And Bobby Kimmel, who wrote most of the material.
Yeah. So how did the recording contract come about at that point?
Well, we played a hoot at the Troubadour, and this guy, whose name was Herb Cohen, who manages the Mothers, you know, he saw us there, and he kind of just hustled me out the door real fast and said, I can get you a contract. I don't know about the group, but I can get you a contract. And I was going, no, my group, you know, we have to be a group. And that was the end of that for the time being, because he was only primarily interested in me. And then we kind of broke up after that, I think, because we weren't doing very well. And I called him up and said, are you still interested in managing me? And he was. And then somehow we just got back together again. We were working together because we could work as a band. At least we had an act. And then he finally decided to take the group on himself, Herbie did, and he was partners with Nick Venet, and they were going to do it independently, and then Nick Venet got a job at Capitol, so they took us on over there.
Yeah, yeah. And you did 3 albums for the Stone Ponies, is that right?
Yeah.
Yes. And singles too. There's one particularly written by Michael Nesmith.
Right. Right. I learned that from a Greenbrier Boys record. Greenbrier Boys were a bluegrass group. I learned it. John Harold sang it. So I didn't even know Mike Nesmith wrote it until I had already learned it. And I looked on the album and said, wow, Mike Nesmith. I already knew him, you know. It's really funny.
And then the group broke up, Linda.
Yeah.
Yeah, why was that at the time?
Why? Oh, because we needed to eat.
Yeah.
You know, we were all pulling in different directions. Kenny really wanted to play. I mean, he had just heard Eric Clapton, and he just went, wow, I want to play hard rock. And I wanted to play country music, and Kimmel was playing sort of jazz folk music, you know. And jazz folk music, God, that sounds ridiculous. And we were just pulling in separate directions, so we just went in separate directions, you know. Kenny went to India and became bliss consciousness, and I just sort of went, what did I do? I went on the road with the band forever. For the next 100 years, never came home. I still don't have a home. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world. I'm an orphan forever.
Because a lot of interesting people have filtered through your band at various times, Linda.
I know, it's weird that way. It's funny, I seem to get people at a sort of critical stage in their development, and they sort of build their chops. I mean, there's nothing that gets your chops up better as a guitar player than playing every single night, you know, twice a night. And there were a lot of guitar players around L.A. I met them all at the Troubadour Bar, you know. I met Bernie Ledden and, Glenn Fry and Don Henley. I met them at the Troubadour Bar. And they'd just be there. They'd come, you know, they came from Texas and different places, and Bernie came from Florida. and they'd just be needing a gig, you know, and we'd know each other, we'd sing. We used to sing in the corner a lot, in the corner of the bar. Douglas Dillard would be there, and Ronnie Dillard, and we'd do a lot of bluegrass songs. Toward the end of the evening, we'd get singing a lot of white spirituals and stuff like that. The drunker everybody was, the nicer it sounded, you know. And it was fun, you know, and we got to know each other that way, and we got to know each other's music somehow that way, too. And then they just come and play with me, and then
Was the Eagles in Glenn and Don's mind at that point? Were they thinking about, was Glenn thinking about putting the Eagles together at that point?
Well, what happened then was Glenn and John David Souther were together. They were called Long Branch Penny Whistle. And then J.D. was breaking that up to go on as a single on his own. And Glenn was just kind of left with nothing to do. And I thought Glenn was so good, you know. I mean, I just thought he was great. And I told him that he was a hot shot, you know, and that he should come on the road with me, but I knew that it wouldn't last. I mean, I never even tried to make him think that that was what I was looking for. You know, I said, you're going to do something someday, but in the meantime, you're starving to death. Why don't you come and play music with me? We'll have a great time. And then I found Don from this band called Shiloh. I heard him playing at the Troubadour. They heard me. They heard a record of mine that they really liked, and they came to L.A. to cut a record, and I heard them, they were playing my version of Silver Threads and Golden Needles, and the guitar player had learned the solo note for note off the record, and I was just walking through the bathroom, you know, you had to go through the club to get to the bathroom from the bar, and I just went, what? That's, you know, it's that solo. I thought, God, what, you know, I was appalled that anyone would actually sit down with one of my records and learn the solo off, you know, like a Led Zeppelin record or something, you know. I mean, the guys in my band do that all the time. So and I heard the drummer, and I thought he was really good. In fact, I tried to get the whole band at that point, but I don't know what happened. Something happened. But so Glenn and Don were roommates together on the road in their motels, you know, and they would sing. I didn't know Don could sing at that time. I just knew he was a great drummer. And Glenn found out that he could sing, and it was like a secret. They called him the secret weapon. No one had heard him sing. He was very shy. Don is incredibly shy. He was so cute. And he found out that and Don really loved playing music with Glenn. Glenn's very dynamic. He has a great sense of the groove, you know. He's a real groove guitar player. In fact, he can sit and make great music just by clapping his hands and singing, you know. He's one of those kind of people. And so, and Glenn and Don both wrote, you know, at that time. So they started talking about putting a band together, and we told them they should get Bernie Ledden. And they thought that was a good idea. And then my manager at the time, John Boylan, had worked a lot with Randy Meisner because he'd produced some Ricky Nelson records. And he told them they should get Randy Meisner to play bass, and they thought that was a good idea. And they put this band together, and it was like people in love. It was the greatest thing to see that band when they first formed. You know, they were so happy. They loved to play music with each other, and it was so good. The vocals were just, they're still great vocally. I think that band has not ever realized its full vocal potential on a record, but you hear it in concert. I mean, they're stunning, you know. They're great the way they sing together.
Was that the same John Boylan who was part of the Apple Tree Theatre years and years ago?
Yes, the same John Boylan.
Yeah, Terry was his brother, is that
right?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I met him in the Troubadour bar, too.
The Don't Cry Now album, Linda, that took you a long time to make, didn't it, at the time?
Oh, my God, that album was a year late.
Yeah. Why was that?
Oh, I forgot how to sing in the middle of it somehow. It was like going to the dentist every day, you know? I mean, it just wouldn't come. We'd go and we'd find these tunes, and they would sort of miraculously slip away. It was like trying to catch on to mercury, you know? I don't know what it was about that album. I was in a very bad frame of mind during that time anyway. I was very discouraged, and I thought I was a terrible singer, and I was going through that number, you know? And my personal life was in a shambles at that point. It always is, but it was especially in a shambles then. And I was on the road all the time, and I was just very depressed, you know, and it's really hard to be creative when you're depressed.
Because you're recording the new album now, Linda, aren't you? How's it going?
Well...
how much is done?
I like it pretty much, you know. 3 tracks. It's really difficult for me to even approach being objective about my own stuff, you know. I really don't... It seems a really unnatural thing for me to hear myself singing from a speaker, you know. I don't mind doing it. I enjoy it while I'm doing it. I really don't like to listen to it back, you know. So I mean, I kind of listen to the guitar or something like that. So I can't really say, you know. I mean, if somebody plays a great guitar lick, then I'll say, oh, that's neat, you know, my record's great. but if, I don't know, it's hard to say. I go through periods of hating it and loving it, you know. Every other time I hear it, I hate it, and every other time I hear it, I like it, you know.
How do you choose the songs? I mean, You're No Good, for example.
Well, I always choose them, they always are about somebody. They have to be about somebody or for somebody. Every song that I sing has a face that I sing it to, you know. And so when something happens to me, it's really funny. I mean, I know so many songs. When something happens to me, the song will occur at the same time. I'll think, oh, this song or that song, you know. And if it's a song I can sing, then I'll have to sing it. You know, I'll just burn to sing it. I can't not sing it, you know. And I don't know. I've just got a lot of good friends that write and, you know, share the same experiences. So John David was very good for that since we lived together, you know. We'd go through some horrible row and he'd write a song about it and I'd sing it. It was great. It was like having a tailor-made songwriter, you know. But, I mean, I just hear them and then we just do them. But I pick them. I mean, they always have to be about me in a way, you know. Since I don't write, I have to find something that's about me.
Fascinating lady, Linda Ronstadt, and in fact she told us at the time too that she's hoping to be over in this country for a tour early in the autumn, and we look forward to that.